Good day, viewers. This is Tech Mag TV News. My name is Stephanie Truja, and these are the headlines. Police block CCC SG from addressing the media. CCC unearths voters' roll and ballot papers anomalies in Bulawayo. State opposes Mazibaba Veshandoku bail. 53 returnees escape COVID-19 quarantine center. And now, in our local top stories, the Zimbabwe Republic Police barred Citizens Coalition for Change Secretary General Charlton Wende from addressing the media following a meeting with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission on Tuesday. Wende was in the company of prominent lawyer Alec Muchadehama and other electoral team at the meeting and wanted to address journalists outside ZRP offices. Zimbabwe will conduct by-elections regarded as a dress rehearsal for next year's general elections next year, this Saturday. In his brief address to journalists before being stopped by police, Wende said that a meeting with ZRP had just finished with 3 requests given. The first one centered as a request to give a voters' roll, which they refused to confirm whether they had the finals voters' roll for Saturday, stating they did not have the voters' roll for Saturday and intended on approaching the courts. Officers manning the ZRP officers swooped on the CCC official and stopped him at the ZRP complex. The police officers did not give any reason for barring Wende from addressing journalists outside the ZEC premises. Citizens Coalition for Change claims it has unearthed serious anomalies on the Phumula voters' roll and irregularities on the Kulumane ballot papers, which are going to be used in the Saturday by-elections. The party says the anomalies were discovered Tuesday during a voters' roll and ballot papers inspection meeting called by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission at its offices in Bulawayo ahead of the elections. Parliamentary and council candidates attended the meeting. In an interview with NewZimbabwe.com, CCC Bulawayo provincial spokesperson Swetha Chiwodza claims that Phumula, which is one of the 2 constituencies being contested in Bulawayo, has exactly the same number of voters as those who voted in the 2018 elections. As of today, Phumula constituency has the same numbers of voters as contained in the 2018 voters' roll. This clearly raises eyebrows because it shows that either the voters' roll has not been cleaned since 2018 or there has been no receipting of transfers and subtraction of voters from the constituency. The CCC spokesperson also complained about blurred candidates and symbol pictures on some ballot papers in Kulumane constituency. In our other local news, the state has opposed bail application by popular Citizens Coalition for Change activist Godfrey Karembera, popularly known as Mazibaba Veshanduko, arguing the evidence against him is overwhelming. Karembera was arrested last Thursday on allegations of insulting the police. Prosecutor Anesu Chirenje told Harare magistrate Barbara Mateko that Karembera was likely to reoffend if granted bail. Chirenje said 5 police officers are lined up to testify against the activist as he was a flight risk. Karembera had also challenged his placement on remand on grounds that he was unlawfully detained, but the state argued that this did not mean the court should automatically set the accused free. The state had also alleged that Karembera was difficult to arrest since he had resisted police officers. Chirenje said the bruises he sustained were a result of the scuffle and not an assault. His lawyer, Douglas Coltart, then opposed the submissions. Mazibaba Veshanduko's lawyer said the political affiliation of the accused was the center of the arrest, and hence the torture is centered around that. Karembera is being accused of undermining the authority of police by insulting them. It is alleged that he insulted the police by calling them dogs. At least 53 returnees from South Africa have escaped from mandatory quarantine at the Beitbridge border post COVID-19 center. Fears of a resurgence of the COVID-19 Omicron variant, coded name Stealth, has prompted heightened surveillance at the country's ports of entry. The Zimbabwe Republic Police on Monday alerted the public to the escape of 53 inmates who had been checked into the facility to contain the spread of the respiratory disease. National Police spokesperson, Assistant Commissioner Paul Nyati confirmed this. The police urged all visitors and citizens entering the country to go through all necessary health and safety protocols, which were put in place by the government of Zimbabwe to curtail the spread of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. A 53-year-old Chinwe man, Chilivashoma Chikwaja, has been described as a lucky man by the High Court after his 20-year jail term was squashed on grounds that the magistrate who handled his case technically erred in convicting and sentencing him. This was even though Chikwaja had pleaded guilty to the allegation when he was hauled to court in 2014. Judges of Appeal, Justice Tawanda Chitapi and Siyabona Musitu, have since ordered his immediate release, noting that the lower court's incompetence had made him a lucky man. The man, who is in his 50s, was convicted after he entered his own guilty plea for raping a 13-year-old girl back in 2014. And now, in our top international news, the US and NATO believe that Belarus could soon join Russia in its war against Ukraine. US and NATO officials told CNN that the country is already taking steps to do so. A Belarusian opposition source said the Belarusian combat units are ready to go into Ukraine as soon as in the next few days, with thousands of forces prepared to deploy. In the source's view, this would have been less of an impact militarily than it would have been geopolitically, given the implications of another country joining the war. A senior NATO intelligence officer said separately that the alliance assesses that the Belarusian government is preparing the environment to justify a Belarusian offense against Ukraine. Russia has launched its attack on Ukraine in part from Belarus territory, and thousands of Russian troops amassed in Belarus ahead of the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine last month, which the two countries had claimed was for training exercises. US and European sanctions in response to the war have targeted both Russian and Belarusian officials, including Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. The NATO military officer said that the final decision for Belarus' involvement in the war still had to be made in Moscow, and as of yet, no indication has been made that the Belarusian forces are participating in fighting in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin's chief spokesman has conceded that Russia has yet to achieve any of its military goals in Ukraine and refused to deny that Moscow could resort to the use of nuclear weapons. In an interview with CNN on Tuesday, Dmitry Peskov repeatedly refused to rule out that Russia would consider using nuclear weapons against what Moscow saw as an existential threat. When asked under what conditions Putin would use Russian nuclear capacity, Peskov replied that Putin had previously hinted at using nuclear weapons against nations that he saw as a threat to Russia. He then said in a televised meeting with Russian defense officials that officials in leading NATO countries have allowed themselves to make aggressive comments about the country, and he therefore ordered the Minister of Defense and the Chief of General Staff to place the Russian Army Deterrence Force on combat alert. And now in entertainment news, Zimnet, a leading financial services group, has once again painted the city green with the return of its glitzy annual Agents Award ceremony held at the prestigious Crystal Lodge in Harare on Friday, the 18th of March. The glamorous event, which is aimed at recognizing high-performing sales agents from all over Zimbabwe, as well as executives from the group and its banking partners. In his welcome remarks, Mustafa Sachek, Zimnet Group Chief Executive Officer, said it is the company's culture to always recognize work and celebrate it. The annual Agents Award ceremony is the pinnacle of its recognition program. The award ceremony, which was dominated by female agents who walked away with most of the awards, could not have come at a better time than the month in which the world is celebrating Women's Month. A woman of particular note was Sharon Mange, a life insurance sales agent who was recognized as the top performing sales agent. She broke the bias and grew her portfolio by 10 times from its 2020 record. Zimnet is a diversified financial group that offers products across the financial and insurance spectrum. It has 4 business units, namely Zimnet General Insurance, Zimnet Life Assurance, Zimnet Financial Services, and Zimnet Asset Management. It is associated as well with the Sanlam Group. And now, in our technology news, President Joe Biden has stated on Monday that intelligence indicated that a growing Russian cyber threat was on the rise to the US. Mr. Biden suggested Moscow could act in retaliation for sanctions imposed on it after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister has said bilateral ties between Moscow and the US were on the verge of rupture. Mr. Biden has previously warned of a possible cyber attack from Russia, saying on the 24th of February the US was prepared to respond. In a Monday statement, Biden said the intelligence has been evolving and the US believes the Russian government is exploring options. Biden also calls for US companies to accelerate efforts to lock their digital doors. The cybersecurity world has been braced for some sort of large cyber-scale attack from Russia since tensions began building between Russia and Ukraine. Cyber authorities in the US and UK and elsewhere have been warning not just about attacks on Ukraine, but on so-called spillover where other countries are targeted or where a hack accidentally spreads outside the theater of conflict. Although President Biden doesn't explicitly say it, the concern seems to be about some sort of attack that could affect the critical part of US infrastructure. This has been TechMag TV News. Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe as we keep bringing you more top stories. See you next time.